Hey, the Womet friends, Andang here to look at the champion. My only main class, my only class that I've gotten to 85. I've been playing it for years and years and have experienced the highs and lows of the class. And now here we are on the the Helm's Deep beta. So where does the class stand? What has happened with the champion? And what is Turbine doing to it? So the champion currently actually with update 5 they've made it to where beta update 5 they've made it to where the attack speeds are much quicker than they are even on live, and it's really interesting to see the reduced induction times. We have reduced induction times on just about everything. I think one of our longest is just about 2 minutes long. Everything has been streamlined for speed. Even in the tanking line, there's still it's a fast form of tanking. It's not your typical live thing, so everything's been sped up. Even if you've played it in build 4, it has greatly changed since then. The biggest changes have actually probably been from build 4 and 5 in the beta, so they're still taking a huge look at everything. One thing to note is that about half our skills in each of the lines are completely new. They've gotten rid of a lot of skills, added in a lot of skills, and so there's some different things. They've changed they've kept a lot of the same icons though, but every skill actually does something different now than it did before, or there are added skills that are completely new, like Champion's Duel, which takes away your target run speed and increases melee damage. There's Controlled Burn, which gives you extra power and regeneration stuff, and this is in Redline, by the way. And there's Continuous Blood Rage now, which is just a skill that you can toggle, and it lasts for a very long time. And Battle Frenzy, they've completely changed the icon for that, and it actually increases your fervor just like normal. And yeah, everything's focusing on fervor and stuff like that. And they've actually added in a lot of critical boosts right into actual upgrades that aren't even necessarily skills. And they've added in skills that decrease attack duration, give you extra damage, increase crits, increase bleeds, and most of these give you skills, which is nice. And Killing Spree, which basically it restores 10% of your max morale whenever you kill an enemy, which is very nice. And there's some very nice skills. And basically, as you do damage, you get heals. And in Yellow Line, the more damage you do, the more heals you get. So I'm actually in a very different cave right now than anywhere you've seen before, probably in LOTRO. And it has a bunch of enemies from Mordor here. And Redline's mostly the same. You can see the absolutely increased animation there. And look at the small cooldowns here. They just happen pretty much instantaneously, and you can see the sheer ferocity and speed of the animations. And you really feel like you're digging into the enemy and going through a much quicker. Look how fast that animation is, and you feel much more like a champion going through the area really quickly with your dual blades rapidly going back and forth. It's definitely a big change from how it is on the live server. And up here we can actually see this thing actually blows out fire if you're not careful. And there's actually a lever around here somewhere that you can turn it off with. And yeah, just the increased speed is pretty amazing. There's also a nice power regeneration. There's the Continuous Blood Rage, of course. There's your horn that you have normally. There's Merciful Strikes, which their animation has actually been slowed down, which fits with Mercy, so that's good. So let's actually switch to another loadout here, and it is a very quick switch out. You can see I'm that easily in Blue Line. And another thing is these side buffs, which I didn't show on Red Line, but it actually gives you Glory is now a passive thing, and you get sudden defense buffs, increased morale, you get your admin skill there. And basically, the more you invest, it causes this to go down, and that's only if you invest heavily in Blue Line. If you invest in other lines, it will go to other places. But anyway, the Blue Line feels much more like tanking. They have increased the amount of damage that you can actually do in Blue Line now, which can come in handy. And here we can get some tactical mitigation, and you can see a new pop-up thing that happens, and it tells you that, hey, you can press this skill now that you did some other stuff. And so it shows whenever it unlocks, and you can see it's just simple Blood Rage in this line. One big change obviously is the sudden defense now, which does a lot of damage and stuff like that. So I don't know what I'm being hit by now, but we'll move on. And this actually has a little bit slower animations. They're not quite as fast, but that is fitting obviously for a tank because you're much slower. And they still have some of the out of control animations there, and there's a nice horn blow there. And you notice that I had a huge morale increase there for a little bit, and all the way up to 14k when I had a buff there. Alright, and took him out. And this is quite a large cave actually. There's plenty to explore in here. But I do enjoy tanking on live. I'd say tanking is even more viable now in the beta form. You can do more damage. I don't know if you can take as much damage, it's probably about the same, but you can at least do more damage while in tanking line, which comes in handy, as you can imagine. Alright, and we're working down this last warrior. He has an interesting beard thing, so that's an interesting thing. Probably hairs from foes that he's taken down, it looks like. And let's go ahead and use the bubble here, and I believe it is still fervor based. And it does damage now, which is a big change from before, where it does more damage. Alright, and we got another archer here that we can take out, hopefully quite easily. And yeah, I definitely, many people are wondering, are the changes better? Is it a good change? I would say that the changes are both better and worse. They're better because now, before you go into combat, let's say you see 10 enemies ahead and you need to switch into your other build. Well, you can switch into yellow line right away, face off the 10 enemies, and then you can switch back into your blue line if you need, or into your red line if you are now doing like a solo and can do a lot of damage. And then let's say that there's a big boss, you can switch into blue line so you can take a lot of damage. And so it's really effective being able to assess the situation and use the skills. And there's actually many more skills now. It's just you can't use them at the same time. So they've actually increased the number of skills for each class. But what they've done is that they've decreased the number of skills you have open to you at any given moment. And so that forces you to be much more tactical and plan a lot more ahead. And so in that respect, I'd consider it an advantage. The disadvantage is that while you are way more powerful now in each of the 3 builds individually, there's no longer the overlap of being the best tank and DPS at the same time. You can't do that anymore. But that was viable on live, especially after Isengard. It kind of went away a little bit with Rohan. But yeah, that is definitely how things seem to be currently, and I just came from that way. So let's continue on around. And you can see this cave is one of the... I don't know anywhere that looks like this in LOTRO. It's very different from the other caves. And that's because it's a Mordor cave, and this is right by the Paths of the Dead, by the way, so in case you're curious. And it's off to the side, it's actually kind of hard to find. So anyway, let's go ahead and switch over into the yellow line. And what's interesting about the yellow line now is that, at least in epic battles I noticed, there is no longer a limit to the number of enemies that you can hit at once. I was hitting 40 enemies with AoEs and horns, and the horn was powerful enough to stun all 40 at once. It is absolutely remarkable in yellow line now. It's completely changed. You can do a ton of damage. You can see there's a big might increase, increases your might by 66%, plus 100% blade wall damage, plus 50% Gondor horn damage. And then this gives Ardent Rage more fervor for Battle Frenzy. And then you get a ton of finesse. you get all these things that increase your AoEs. You get a nice cap AoE skill called Furrier Blades. You get Great Cleave, and in my opinion, the yellow line was probably the weakest out of all three lines before, because it was very hard to take a lot of aggro and still not get killed. And now you can take a ton of aggro, and the more enemies that you have, the more healing and stuff you get from it. So it's actually better to have a ton of enemies on you. As we can see in these bonuses, reduces costs, Ren's bleed now stacks 5 times, increase criticals for Fury, 50% damage returned to the enemy, increases champion skills, and reminder, this is all beta stuff, so it's obviously subject to change. And then this one's probably a really good one. It's called Born of Combat, and it comes up every so often, and it actually allows you to do a very powerful AoE that can actually stack up several attacks there. So let's try to get as many enemies as possible on us, at least a few of them. And let's go ahead and fight them both at the same time. And you notice I'm actually doing really good damage against both of them, at least as a champion goes, for your AoE stuff, and getting some nice, that was actually a 3k hit on him on both of them, so definitely some improved damage that you can do now in AoE form, which is very nice because it allows for staying in AoE to be much more viable now, I've noticed, because you can actually just reside in the yellow line and be able to actually take down everything really well. But when you need to be really powerful, you can do that as well. And let's actually try to get several of these guys here all together in this corner, hopefully. They can still see me, so we're going to try to lead him back over here. Oh, he was actually smart. He ran away when I came for him. That was pretty cool. Alright, and then you can see the horn did actually a lot more damage than it used to. Rend, which is a skill I didn't actually use very much, is still very effective, and actually probably a little bit more effective than it used to be. And we can actually see the Born of Hope here, which has a nice damage thing that you could see there that sends out a basically fire on the ground through your feet, which is an interesting animation for a champion, but very nice. One thing that I don't like is they took away the flaming skill. I can't think of what it is off the top of my head that actually set your blades on fire. That was a very, very nice skill that is no longer around. But yeah, it reflects 50% of damage there, which is just devastating to your enemy. Alright, and I'm going to try to show the rest of the cave here while staying in the yellow line. And there is actually a boss in this cave, if I can remember where he is. And, you can see I'm actually losing some health here, so I probably should slow down my AoE, my champion for here. But we'll go ahead and pop a token since it is beta, and so don't actually lose it for live. Alright, we're making our way up to, I believe the enemy's up here. The main boss, I don't remember for sure. Alright, and there's the new skill, and that did actually 4,000 damage on him. And that was pretty impressive, and it is actually an AoE. So it's definitely an improved skill there. Well, a completely new skill, actually. Alright. And here is, Furl Strikes was actually the skill I was trying to get earlier. It used to do fire damage, but it now doesn't do that anymore, which is kind of sad, actually. Alright. And we are almost about to die. Hopefully we'll get this guy taken care of in enough time here. And there we go. Alright, so I don't think the main boss is actually through there. So I think it was actually up, so we'll actually go back and try to find him. And the cave design here is just pretty amazing. There's lots of fog throughout the cave. It definitely feels like a dangerous place that you don't want to stay in. There we go. You can see that this area actually goes up quite a bit, and there's all sorts of ways to get up there, but we're going to take this way. Actually need to check something really quickly. So you can see I'm entirely invested in yellow line here. So definitely engine, and let's actually open a new one. And yeah, we'll create a new one. And let's go ahead and I'm going to try to show a multi-build. So we'll start off in red, I guess. And just investing in all sorts of things here. And you can see the second tier red unlocked. But we can also invest in yellow. Now it does cost double points to invest in yellow, so I don't recommend doing that all the time, but you can get a lot of might by doing that investment. And you can also get like a second win to get more power. And if you invest one into everything, then you will be not too strong, but you can get some nice buffs here. So we can actually increase vitality there by quite a bit. And then let's invest some more into red line. Let's unlock some more. So you can see that's just as far as we can go. But if we take away some yellow investment here, we can actually invest a little further into this one. And unlock Ferocious Strikes, which is very effective, as you can imagine. And yeah, let's go ahead and invest a little bit more into blue line. That's actually a pretty good damage skill. And let's see, what do we want left? Let's look at blue line actually. I'll actually invest a little bit more into Vicious Strikes. Alright, so we apply that, and you can see we made it almost all the way to the end of red line because we invested in a few more things there. And I do have a lot less points than what you actually have. You'll actually have about another 20 or so points. And that's because I haven't finished all the class side quests. But you can see, because I invested in red line, I have this faster animation. But I also have a lot of the perks of the increased morale of blue line. And also the extra skills from yellow with some extra stuff in there as well. And so let's actually take down both these guys at once. So you can see that I'm not doing near as much AoE stuff, but my horn actually still has the extra AoE from yellow line a little bit because I did invest into that. And so it's really possible to actually invest in the different stages of the different lines and still have some really good skills. I've invested probably halfway into red line and invested a little bit in blue and yellow, and I'm doing pretty effectively still. So you can see that there's a lot of... Oh, hello, buddy. That was not a very nice attack, but, you know, we're gonna hurt you now. Oh, and you can see I got a 4K hit off of And yeah, and just a reminder, everything is obviously subject to change because this is beta, but we're getting ready to fight this final boss here in his quarters, and he has quite a lot of morale here. Go ahead and get a close up on him. He is totally pale, very different from anything we've seen before. We're actually taking him down pretty effectively. And yeah, and obviously you can see in the animation still the quickness of combat. That is the main change to Redline, and it makes you feel like you're doing a massive amount of damage, and that was a really cool animation there. And so it just, I really enjoy these changes, and hopefully others will that are on Champions. I can't speak for the other classes because I haven't played them. So other classes might be great, they might not be. I honestly don't know. But I hope for the best, and obviously Turbine is still making tons and tons of changes to all the classes, and nothing is finished yet. And likely until a month or two after launch, we will not know if these changes were good or not. But one thing that this does, real quick, one thing this does allow Turbine to do in the future, because this is a change for the long term. We actually have a little bit less than the amount of skills that you have when you're level 50 or so. And if you think about it, level 50 was the end of the progression for the game at launch of LOTRO originally. And the system was not necessarily meant to be added onto again and again. And what's happened is all the classes have become these multi-use classes where they have a little bit of everything, and at least for the champion, you're able to do all sorts of things together. And so Turbine kind of lost creativity there for a little bit. What these changes do is they allow Turbine to essentially hit the reset button on all the classes. They're now back at level 50 essentially. Only we're at level 95, so you have the high-end level 95 characters with really fleshed out trees and really fleshed out skill lines. What this allows them to do in the future is expand each of these different lines and allow there to be new skills being added in that are even better than what they have right now. And so instead of having like 1,000, hundreds of skills by the time we're at whatever it is when we get to Mordor, by doing these changes, what LOTRO is allowing the game to do is actually being able to have longevity with each of the classes. And so while even if your class is not fun with the Helm Steep expansion, I'm not saying they're not, because I absolutely love the champion and I hope the other classes are just the same. Even if your class is not as fun, the fact is that they are doing it long term. And so by the time we get to Mordor, each of these lines will probably be close to the same as what we had at 85 on live, where we had those really fleshed out characters that felt really, really great. And so what this allows Turbine to do is have the progression of characters be at the very end. And this allows you to be at 95 to be at your max. No longer is the max part of your character at level 60 like it is on live, because really since Moria, most classes have not been getting that impressive of skills, and definitely not a large suite of impressive skills. Maybe they've gotten one or two. And what these changes allow you to do is to have a cap at each of the ends of the trees that you get not at 95, because obviously you can invest quicker than that, but it allows you to get them near the end of your career, plus you're investing in other trees. And even if they don't introduce anything else into the different trees, what you will be able to do in the future is get more points. And with those new points, you will be able to invest further into each of the trees, allowing you to become more powerful because of that. So it's definitely a good system. One thing that I'm really glad about is that there's not just an unlimited number of points like there is with your war steeds, where you can essentially invest into the entire thing eventually. And so it causes you to make choices. And it's not permanent choices. You can make choices right before you enter combat. And so what this allows you to do is to assess the situation and notice what is going on and get a good idea of what the situation will happen and actually adapt to it, which is something you couldn't do before. And so now you can be the most powerful class possible in the different situations that you're in. And so when it's time to be a single target focus down real quick DPS solo, you can be in full red line going to town with each of the enemies. And that's just something that wasn't really possible to the extent that it is now. And one interesting thing that it does for the champion, at least, is that now there's essentially 3 different versions of the champion, and they're all fairly well fleshed out. And that creates diversity, and hopefully it's there in the other classes as well. And it's just, I'm really enjoying these changes, and it's because of the reduced induction times, at least on champion. As you could hopefully see, I was never without need for skills. I never ran out of skills. I always had at least half my skill bar still available to be pressed, so that you can. There's still the same amount of choices that you can make, but you have more powerful skills now, which is another thing, more quickly. So you don't have a lot of those skills that don't do anything, and after it goes past level 30, you don't use them anymore. Which wasn't as true for the champion, because you did use a lot of your skills throughout the space. But anyway, I think that they are very good changes, and I'm excited to see how Turbine expands them, because I feel like until we see how they're being expanded in both the zone update, and that'll happen later on, plus after live probably, and then eventually with the next expansion, that will determine how the system will work for the rest of LOTRO, and it'll be I think the real test for these new skills will be at the next expansion, not necessarily at this one. And so it's going to be a long haul. Some classes might be in bad places for a while, but I can promise you Turbine is working very, very hard to make sure that each class is as fun as possible. And I'd have to say, in Redline, because of the increased animations and because of the quickness of combat, the reduced induction times as well, I'm having more fun on Redline than I have had my entire time on any part of my champion. And the blue line is now very, very viable, and I'm sure as you continue to learn, there will be even more depth there. And the yellow line is more viable than it has been before. And so they've allowed each of these lines to be more powerful in what they do and what you're trying to get each of the lines to do. And so I'm definitely a fan of these changes, and hopefully they'll be great for other classes as well. So thank you guys for watching, especially if you stuck around through this extremely long monologue, and I hope you guys will be happy with the changes, and hopefully Turbine will change things if you're not. So thank you guys so much for watching this video, and hopefully it's put away some of the fears that champions might have been having, and hopefully other classes will have great videos as well. If you want to check out different classes, some of the gameplay videos, we do have videos, I think, of about 4 or 5 of the classes up already, and hopefully we'll get more of them up as we continue on. And if you'd like to submit a video of your class that you are doing, and we haven't covered it yet on LOTRO Players, please send a link to your YouTube video to lotroplayers.mymiddleearth@gmail.com to send that in, so we can hopefully get it on the site if it's good. So thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you again real soon. Probably at launch will be the next time. And so it'll be definitely exciting to see the launch of the game and see how much more improved it has been, even more than this build of beta. So thank you guys so much for watching. Reminder, everything is subject to change, and we'll see you again real soon.
PVMP and dang, subscribe.